What if I told you that Singapore, a tiny city-state smaller than many cities, will win the 2030s, and not China? That sounds bold, maybe even crazy. But when you look deeper at history, strategy, climate, society, and global trends, Singapore might just have the edge. In today's video, we'll walk through why Singapore is quietly positioning itself for greatness in the coming decade, and where China's giant engine may begin to stumble. Stick with me. This might change how you think about the future. Part 1. Why China is vulnerable. Let's begin with China, the obvious giant, the rising power. But even giants have weak spots. One, slowing growth and structural drag. China's rapid rise was built on an extraordinary mix of manufacturing dominance, urban migration, and state-driven construction. For nearly 4 decades, it seemed unstoppable, turning sleepy fishing towns into megacities and exporting everything from steel to smartphones. But as 2030 approaches, cracks are showing beneath the surface. Economic growth, once roaring above 10%, has slowed to around 4% or less, signaling deep structural fatigue. One of the biggest drags comes from the real estate sector, which for years accounted for nearly a quarter of China's GDP. Developers borrowed heavily to fuel endless projects, creating vast ghost cities with few residents. Now, many of these developers are drowning in debt, while unsold apartments pile up across the country. Local governments, which relied on land sales for revenue, are struggling to balance their books. At the same time, consumer spending remains weak. Chinese households save more and spend less, partly due to uncertainty about jobs, pensions, and social safety nets. Meanwhile, the government faces mounting fiscal pressures, with aging demographics demanding more healthcare and welfare spending. In short, China's old engines, construction, exports, and cheap labor, no longer generate the same spark. The economy now faces a turning point: either shift toward innovation and consumption or risk stagnation. The slowdown is not just a temporary dip, it's a structural shift that could redefine China's place in the global economy throughout the 2030s. 2. Demographic headwinds. China's demographic crisis is unfolding faster than anyone expected. For the first time in 6 decades, its population has begun to shrink, marking the end of an era defined by abundant labor and rapid urbanization. The one-child policy, enforced for nearly 40 years, has left lasting scars, creating a society with too few young workers to replace a swelling elderly population. By 2035, nearly 1 in 4 Chinese citizens will be over 60, placing immense pressure on the nation's pension and healthcare systems. The working-age population, once China's greatest strength, is declining by millions each year. Factories that once relied on cheap labor now struggle to fill positions, forcing wages up and eroding China's low-cost advantage in manufacturing. Efforts to reverse this trend, such as offering cash incentives for childbirth and easing family restrictions, have produced little success. This demographic imbalance is also reshaping consumption patterns. Older citizens tend to save rather than spend, further weakening domestic demand. As productivity growth slows and fewer young innovators enter the workforce, China risks slipping into a middle-income trap, where growth stalls before reaching developed world prosperity. The once youthful giant is growing old before it grows truly rich. 3. Geopolitical and tech decoupling. China's geopolitical landscape is becoming one of its greatest vulnerabilities. Once the world's factory and a magnet for global capital, it now faces growing isolation as tensions with the United States and its allies intensify. The era of open trade and shared technology is giving way to strategic competition, where trust and security outweigh efficiency. At the heart of this decoupling is technology. The U.S. has imposed sweeping export controls on advanced semiconductors and the equipment used to make them, choking off China's access to critical components that power everything from smartphones to artificial intelligence. Allies like Japan and the Netherlands have followed suit, tightening restrictions on chip-making tools. This has forced China to pour billions into developing domestic alternatives, but catching up may take years, if not decades. Meanwhile, foreign investors are pulling back, wary of unpredictable regulations, data restrictions, and political risk. Western companies are diversifying production into Vietnam, India, and Indonesia to reduce exposure. As global supply chains split into competing blocs, China's export-driven model, once its lifeline, becomes a liability. The world's second-largest economy is learning that in an age of geopolitical mistrust, even the biggest markets can be cut off from the technologies that define the future. 4. Environmental and climate pressures. China's environmental challenges are as vast as its territory. Decades of rapid industrialization lifted millions out of poverty, but left behind severe air, water, and soil pollution. Today, China burns more coal than the rest of the world combined, making its pledge to peak carbon by 2030 and reach net zero by 2060 an enormous undertaking. Transitioning away from coal while maintaining energy security is a delicate balancing act that could restrain economic growth. Climate change is also hitting China hard. The country faces frequent floods in the south and droughts in the north, threatening crops, cities, and power supplies. Water scarcity is becoming a national concern, especially in regions that fuel China's heavy industries. Addressing these issues requires massive investments in green infrastructure, flood control systems, and renewable energy, all of which divert funds from other areas of development. Beijing has launched aggressive measures, expanding solar and wind power, promoting electric vehicles, and enforcing pollution controls. But enforcement remains uneven, especially in poorer provinces. As the costs of climate adaptation rise, China must spend more to clean its past while trying to power a sustainable future. In the 2030s, these environmental burdens could quietly erode the very foundation of its economic strength. 5. Innovation and productivity gaps. China's next great challenge isn't just producing more, it's producing smarter. After decades of relying on cheap labor and large-scale manufacturing, the country must now move up the value chain into innovation, automation, and advanced services. But this shift is proving harder than expected. While China excels at rapid imitation and scaling existing technologies, true innovation, creating something entirely new, requires a freer flow of ideas, competition, and risk-taking. Many of China's state-owned enterprises dominate key industries, but often lack the flexibility and creativity of private firms. Protected from real competition, they can become inefficient and resistant to change. At the same time, the private tech sector, once a hotbed of innovation, now faces tighter political controls. Crackdowns on major companies like Alibaba and Tencent have cooled entrepreneurial confidence and slowed investment in new ventures. Rising labor costs and slowing productivity also threaten China's edge in manufacturing. The government is pouring billions into artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and green technology. But breakthroughs take time, and global restrictions on advanced tech only widen the gap. As China enters the 2030s, its past strengths, centralized control, cheap labor, and mass production could become the very constraints that limit its next stage of growth. Part 2. Why Singapore can win. Now what? Let's turn to Singapore. It might seem small, but that is part of its strength. 1. Strategic focus and clarity. Singapore's greatest strength lies in its clarity of vision and disciplined execution. Unlike many nations that shift policies with every election, Singapore operates with long-term consistency. Its economic model is guided by 4 key pillars: trade, enterprise, manufacturing, and services, all strategically interconnected to build resilience and global relevance. Every major policy, from education to infrastructure, feeds into this roadmap of sustainable, high-value growth. The government's Future Economy Council serves as the central brain of this strategy, bringing together leaders from both public and private sectors to align innovation, skills, and investment. This ensures that every initiative, from tech innovation to workforce training, works toward a common goal: maintaining Singapore's competitiveness in a rapidly changing world. Singapore isn't chasing size, it's chasing value. Its goal to increase manufacturing value, add by 50% by 2030, shows its determination to move from labor-intensive production to precision industries like biotechnology, advanced electronics, and green manufacturing. Simultaneously, it's positioning itself as a hub for digital trade, finance, and smart logistics. In essence, Singapore's success is not accidental, it's engineered. Every move is calculated, data-driven, and future-focused. While larger nations struggle with bureaucracy and shifting priorities, Singapore's focused strategy gives it an edge to adapt quickly and stay several steps ahead in the 2030s. 2. Trade and port mastery. Singapore's mastery of trade and logistics is one of the main reasons it will thrive in the 2030s. For centuries, its strategic location, right at the crossroads of major global shipping routes, has made it a natural gateway between East and West. Today, its port remains one of the busiest and most efficient in the world, handling millions of containers each year with unmatched precision and speed. But Singapore isn't resting on past achievements. It is now constructing the Tuas Megaport, a next-generation facility designed to revolutionize maritime trade. When fully completed, Tuas will be the world's largest fully automated port, capable of handling up to 65 million TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units, annually. Using artificial intelligence, automated cranes, and driverless vehicles, the port will redefine efficiency, sustainability, and connectivity in global shipping. In a world shaken by supply chain disruptions and geopolitical tensions, companies are seeking neutral, reliable hubs that can guarantee stability and speed. Singapore fits this need perfectly. Its reputation for transparency, advanced infrastructure, and political neutrality makes it the preferred link for global trade networks. As global supply chains reorganize, Singapore's port mastery ensures it remains the beating heart of international commerce, small in size yet indispensable in influence. 3. Smart, adaptive economy. Singapore's economy thrives because it's not just efficient, it's intelligently adaptive. The nation treats change as a constant, not a crisis. Through a unique partnership among government, businesses, unions, and schools, Singapore continuously upgrades its workforce to meet new demands. Programs like Skills Future and lifelong learning initiatives ensure that citizens, from young graduates to older workers, acquire the digital and technical skills needed for the jobs of tomorrow. The country is also investing deeply in the industries of the future: green energy, biotechnology, precision engineering, and digital manufacturing. Its Green Plan 2030 outlines ambitious national goals, from quadrupling solar energy capacity and expanding electric vehicle infrastructure to planting 1 million trees and creating cleaner, circular waste systems. These targets are not mere slogans. They are built into Singapore's budgets, urban design, and industrial policies. Moreover, the city-state's embrace of data, automation, and artificial intelligence is transforming sectors from logistics to healthcare. It's turning itself into a living laboratory for innovation where policies evolve alongside technology. By combining sustainability, adaptability, and innovation, Singapore is proving that small nations can lead in shaping the future economy, not by competing on size, but by outsmarting the competition. 4. Political stability and governance. Singapore's political stability is one of its most powerful advantages, and one that most large nations struggle to match. For decades, it has maintained a reputation for clean, transparent, and merit-based governance, with some of the world's lowest levels of corruption. This trust in institutions gives investors and global companies the confidence that Singapore is a safe place to do business, where contracts are honored, policies are predictable, and the rule of law stands firm. Unlike many countries where politics often stalls progress, Singapore's leadership operates with long-term vision rather than short-term populism. The government's disciplined approach to fiscal management, infrastructure planning, and social cohesion ensures that every major decision serves the nation's future, not political convenience. Its small size, often seen as a limitation, is actually a superpower. Without layers of bureaucracy, Singapore can adapt and pivot quickly, whether to respond to a global crisis, adjust to new technology, or seize emerging opportunities. This nimbleness was seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, where Singapore swiftly implemented digital health systems and financial support with remarkable efficiency. In an uncertain world, stability is gold, and Singapore has mastered the art of combining strong governance with agility. That balance makes it a magnet for global investors and a model for nations seeking order in chaos. 5. Neutrality, diplomacy, and balance. Singapore's ability to stay neutral and balanced in a divided world is one of its most remarkable achievements. While many nations are drawn into the tug-of-war between the United States and China, Singapore has mastered the art of maintaining strong, respectful ties with both. It hosts U.S. naval vessels, cooperates closely on defense and innovation, yet also remains a trusted partner for China in trade, finance, and diplomacy. This careful equilibrium allows Singapore to act as a bridge rather than a battlefield. Its foreign policy, rooted in the principle of being friends with all, enemies with none, has earned it global respect. As great powers clash over technology, territory, and ideology, Singapore offers something rare, a neutral platform for dialogue and commerce. This diplomatic agility also extends to soft power. Singapore's reputation for competence, integrity, and fairness makes it a preferred mediator and financial hub. International organizations, multinational corporations, and global summits often choose Singapore as neutral ground for serious discussions. In the 2030s, as geopolitical tensions deepen, the world will need trustworthy connectors, nations that can speak to all sides. Singapore's quiet, principled diplomacy ensures it will remain one of the most reliable bridges in an increasingly fractured global landscape. 6. Strategic population and talent policy. Singapore's population strategy is one of precision and balance, crafted to sustain growth without losing social cohesion. With limited natural resources and an aging population, the country understands that human talent is its most valuable asset. That's why it manages immigration with both care and calculation, welcoming the skills it needs while protecting opportunities for citizens. As of 2025, Singapore's population reached a record 6.11 million, driven largely by foreign professionals and workers who power key sectors like infrastructure, construction, healthcare, and technology. These individuals fill vital gaps, ensuring the economy remains dynamic and competitive. Yet Singapore never allows uncontrolled immigration. Policies are carefully designed to maintain cultural harmony and public trust, ensuring that growth feels inclusive rather than overwhelming. Beyond numbers, Singapore invests heavily in developing local talent. Initiatives like Skills Future, workforce retraining programs, and international scholarships equip citizens to compete globally. Meanwhile, its open-door policy for global innovators and entrepreneurs keeps it connected to the best minds in the world. By balancing local empowerment with international collaboration, Singapore ensures it remains both cosmopolitan and cohesive, a rare equilibrium that fuels economic progress without compromising national identity. 7. Resilience to external shocks. Singapore's resilience is not just luck, it's the result of decades of disciplined preparation. Despite its small size and lack of natural resources, Singapore has built one of the world's most financially secure and diversified economies. Its leaders planned from the start for a world full of uncertainty, ensuring the nation could withstand shocks that topple larger countries. At the heart of this strength are its sovereign wealth funds, Temasek Holdings and GIC, which manage hundreds of billions in assets globally. These funds act as both a safety net and a strategic investment arm, generating wealth for future generations while cushioning the economy during downturns. Singapore also maintains one of the world's highest foreign reserve ratios, giving it financial firepower to stabilize markets and support businesses during crises. Its economy is diversified across trade, finance, technology, and manufacturing, so no single sector dominates. This diversity allowed Singapore to recover quickly from events like the 1997 Asian financial crisis, the 2008 global recession, and the 2020 pandemic. Most importantly, Singapore's culture of foresight, planning decades ahead rather than reacting, makes it uniquely capable of adapting to change. In an unpredictable 2030s world, this blend of prudence, agility, and preparedness ensures Singapore will remain not just stable, but strong. Part 3. The Clash. Singapore versus China in the 2030s. As the 2030s unfold, the world is witnessing a quiet but profound shift in the balance of economic power. The story is no longer about who grows the fastest, but who can remain reliable, adaptable, and trusted amid global uncertainty. In this new reality, Singapore and China represent two contrasting models, one vast but burdened, the other small but strategically agile. China, though still a global heavyweight, is entering a decade of adjustment. Slower growth, mounting debt, and a shrinking workforce are reshaping its once unstoppable rise. Investors and multinational corporations, wary of policy swings, trade wars, and tech restrictions, are searching for stable, neutral ground to manage regional operations. This is where Singapore quietly steps in. Its political neutrality, efficient governance, and reputation for stability make it an ideal hub for global capital seeking safety and predictability. As global supply chains diversify away from China, Singapore stands to benefit immensely. Companies that once relied heavily on Chinese factories are spreading production across Southeast Asia, creating a new network of manufacturing nodes connected through Singapore's ports, data centers, and financial systems. The Tuas megaport, along with Changi's logistics ecosystem, will transform Singapore into the command center of Asia's trade arteries, ensuring goods, data, and capital flow seamlessly, even as larger economies stumble. Moreover, Singapore is becoming the preferred destination for talent and innovation spilling out of China. As regulatory crackdowns dampen creativity within China's private sector, many entrepreneurs, researchers, and investors are relocating to Singapore's open, innovation-friendly environment. This inflow of capital and expertise fuels Singapore's ambition to lead in biotech, green energy, advanced manufacturing, and digital finance. Areas where precision, trust, and long-term strategy matter more than sheer scale. China, on the other hand, will face mounting internal pressures. Environmental degradation, demographic decline, and regional disparities may strain its social fabric. Balancing industrial growth with sustainability, debt control, and social welfare will be a constant challenge. While Beijing focuses on stabilizing its domestic economy, Singapore can move nimbly, capitalizing on niches that larger powers overlook. Crucially, Singapore doesn't need to defeat China. It wins by positioning itself as indispensable, the hub that connects East and West when others drift apart. In finance, it offers security. In logistics, reliability. In diplomacy, neutrality. When the world splits into rival blocs, Singapore becomes the rare bridge both sides can trust. By the late 2030s, China will still command vast resources and influence, but its growth will be slower, its challenges deeper, and its global image more complex. Singapore, though tiny in comparison, will shine as a model of disciplined adaptation and strategic foresight, a small nation thriving in a world of giants. In the clash of the 2030s, the winner isn't the one with the biggest army or population. It's the one that can stay stable, smart, and trusted when everything else seems uncertain. And in that arena, Singapore may quietly outshine them all. Part 4. Objections and Risks. What could go wrong for Singapore? Singapore's rise has been remarkable, but even the best planned success stories face vulnerabilities. The island nation's future depends not only on strategy and discipline, but also on how well it can manage the risks that come with its unique position in the world. 1. Size and resource constraints. Singapore's small geography is both its strength and its Achilles heel. With limited land, no oil or gas reserves, and a reliance on imported food and water, it remains highly dependent on global supply chains. Any major disruption, such as shipping blockades, trade restrictions, or regional conflicts, could impact essentials like energy and food security. To counter this, Singapore invests heavily in water desalination, urban farming, and energy diversification, but self-sufficiency will always have limits. 2. Climate change and rising sea levels. Being a low-lying island, Singapore faces serious environmental risks. Rising sea levels, flash floods, and tropical storms could threaten its ports, housing, and business districts. The government has already committed billions to coastal defenses and climate adaptation projects, yet the sheer cost and speed of climate change could outpace these measures. 3. Aging population. Like many advanced economies, Singapore's population is aging rapidly. With a smaller pool of young workers supporting more retirees, Healthcare costs and pension demands are rising. The government's response, encouraging active aging, retraining older workers, and selective immigration, helps. But demographic pressure could slow growth over time. 4. Overdependence on trade. Singapore's openness is a double-edged sword. Its economy thrives on exports, finance, and logistics. But in global downturns or trade wars, demand can collapse overnight. Without a large domestic market, recovery depends on how quickly global trade rebounds. The city-state mitigates this risk by diversifying industries, from green tech to digital services, but vulnerability remains inherent in its global model. 5. Competition from emerging hubs. Neighboring nations like Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia are rapidly improving infrastructure and attracting foreign investment. They offer cheaper labor and growing consumer markets, tempting companies to shift operations. Meanwhile, global cities like Dubai and Rotterdam compete for the same maritime and financial roles. Singapore must constantly innovate to stay ahead, maintaining efficiency, trust, and technology as its key advantages. 6. Geopolitical risk and pressure. Singapore's balancing act between China and the U.S. grows trickier each year. As both superpowers demand loyalty from partners, staying neutral becomes harder. Sanctions, tech restrictions, or regional conflicts could pull Singapore into economic or diplomatic crossfire. In short, Singapore's future isn't risk-free. Its smallness, openness, and ambition expose it to global turbulence. Yet what makes Singapore unique is its culture of foresight, the ability to see risks early and prepare before crises strike. That habit of constant readiness may well be the reason it continues to survive and thrive long after larger powers stumble. Part 5. Why this matters for you, me, everyone. Why does the rise of Singapore and the slowdown of China matter to all of us, no matter where we live? Because in today's interconnected world, economic shifts ripple globally, shaping everything from job markets to technology access. When global capital looks for safe, predictable, and efficient destinations, it flows toward hubs like Singapore. That movement of money fuels new startups, research, and innovations that eventually reach consumers and workers worldwide, creating opportunities far beyond Asia. As trade routes and supply chains realign, industries everywhere, from manufacturing in Europe to logistics in Africa, will feel the change. Companies might begin sourcing through Singaporean networks, benefiting from its transparent systems and reliable standards. If you work in trade, tech, or finance, your business could one day connect through Singapore without you even realizing it. On the geopolitical front, Singapore's stability offers something the world desperately needs: a neutral bridge between competing powers. The small island's diplomacy helps keep trade lanes open and tensions manageable, supporting the global economy's stability. But perhaps the biggest reason this story matters is that Singapore represents a blueprint for progress, one built on good governance, long-term planning, and adaptability. Whether you're a policymaker in Africa, a business leader in America, or a student in Europe, there are lessons to learn from how Singapore turns limitations into strength and proves that with the right mindset, even the smallest nation can shape the world. Conclusion. So is it guaranteed that Singapore will win the 2030s? No, nothing is guaranteed. But history does not favor giants forever. Sometimes small, focused, adaptable entities outperform when the age of complexity arrives. China will remain a major power. But the next decade is not about brute scale alone. It will be about flexibility, resilience, reputation, innovation, and connectivity. Precisely where Singapore has been quietly building strengths. If you believe in this possibility, I invite you. Watch Singapore closely. Watch the port, watch green tech, watch trade linkages, watch how global capital moves. Because in the 2030s, this little island may just become one of the most important hubs in the world, and a strong pivot away from a risky, faltering giant. If you enjoyed this video, click like, subscribe, hit that bell. Leave a comment. Do you think Singapore or China will dominate the next decade? I read every comment. Thanks for listening. Until next time.